Recently, Clem's Terran versus Zerg has looked incredibly strong. However, today he's not facing off against Reynor, he's not even facing off against Serral. He's going up against the #1 Zerg player from South Korea. Spawning right here in the opposite corner of the map, we're looking inside of the main base of Dark. Now, I think it's fair to say that Dark plays this game a little bit differently than, for example, a Serral or a Reynor. Generally speaking, Dark, I mean, he will do whatever he feels like doing, and sometimes it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes his strategies almost look questionable, but he somehow, someway makes it work. And I think one of the reasons why his strategies look a little bit wonky sometimes is that because on paper they may not necessarily be the best, but he believes that they are the strongest strategic choices in the particular situation that he's in. So Dark can do anything from playing a normal macro game, which may very well be the case in this series, I have no idea, to just going for a proxy hatchery, a Nydus worm. Dark can really do a little bit of everything, and it makes him a very dangerous opponent. That being said, if this turns out to be a straight up series, I think I'm gonna favor Clem. Clem recently, I mean, I know you guys watch every single one of my videos, right? So this is not gonna come as a spoiler to anybody. In case you haven't seen last week's video though, you might wanna mute me for just like 5 seconds. Recently though, Clem did take down Serral in a Terran versus Zerg, and Serral's TVZ right now is on absolute fire. Or I guess from his perspective, Zerg versus Terran. Anyways, Clem is looking solid right now, but this is still Dark, who is an absolute monster in basically any matchup. And Dark is also one of those players who emotionally really almost feels like he doesn't seem to care very much. Now, I'm sure he cares a lot, but when you watch him play in any tournaments that have like face cameras or anything along those lines, he generally speaking just sits there. He's got a serious look on his face, but he never really gets flustered. If you compare that to, for example, somebody like Clem, Clem definitely can get very frustrated. So I think game #1 here is going to be a critical one. If Dark can get an easy win, for example, I've got a feeling that Clem is, well, gonna have a much harder time in the rest of the series. Whereas if Clem ends up winning this particular game 1, I don't think Dark really cares that much. Anyhow, Reaper going across the map. It's gonna be a quick triple hatch opener right here for Dark. He's gone for 6 Zerglings, so a little bit of respect right there coming out of Dark. A lot of the Zerg players like to go for only 4 Zerglings against that early game Reaper, but Clem is known for his Reaper control, and a lot of the Europeans, well, they go for 4 Zerglings in general. A lot of the Korean players do like to play, alright, 6 Lings, and the idea is that you don't lose anything. So getting a single Zergling hit there may not seem very significant, but getting a kill on the board here, first blood, it feels good, because when you open up with 6 Lings, you really don't want to lose anything here as the Zerg. Alrighty. Are we gonna go for a 3rd command center right now after the barracks, after the factory? No, we're gonna go straight into the starport. Okay. So Clem opening up with what I consider to be a bit more of an old school opener, even though this is something that we still see all the time. For a while though, Mr. Clem was very fond of going for that triple CC start. So basically what you do is you go for a 3rd command center after you plant down the factory, and then eventually you go for a starport. This does mean though that Dark is gonna get a full scout right here of the main base. He knows exactly what he's playing against, but it may come at the cost of an overlord. And of course this also means that Clem is gonna be in the driver's seat for the earlier stages of this game. He needs to justify losing a little bit of his potential economy by dealing some harassment damage on the other side of the map. Be it by forcing out Zerglings or actually killing drones, it doesn't really matter. But obviously one of the advantages of opening up like this, especially against somebody like Dark, if the Zerg wanted to go for anything aggressive, they really won't have an answer against these super quick Banshees. So now that Dark has seen the 1-1-1 opener here from Clem, the 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport, he probably is not thinking about being the aggressor anymore either. So Clem gets to be in the driver's seat, and he gets to force this game to go to the mid game. Okay, now he just decides to drive by. Link speed is only just now finishing. There's a bunch of Links waiting on the high ground. 5 drones go down so far. 7 drones go down so far. Counting with Loko, apparently. Alright, so that is not a move we normally see anymore in 2023. Luckily there for Dark, he did not skip all of the Zerglings, because he is known to do that every once in a while. Well, losing 2 more Hellions would actually really not justify his opener. Luckily, Clem with some nice juking and jiving there does get it out. Okay, so in the end, 10 drones end up going down, 3 Zerglings end up going down as well, but of course it came at the cost of all of this. And I honestly don't think I like this all too much for the Terran, despite the fact that he killed 10 workers and it looks really good. The problem is that now for the foreseeable future, Dark gets to just make drones. Dark gets to just make drones, because these Hellions are no longer really a threat. I mean, obviously they can drive to the other side of the map, but for the last minute or so, Dark has been able to do whatever he pleases, and he can very quickly make up for those 10 lost workers. So as you can see, he decides to go straight into a lair. No Baneling Nest, no Evo Chambers, just drones and a small group of Zerglings here. 7 links, you're not really going to be able to achieve too much. Positioning the Baneling Nest in such a way as well to create a tight choke point over here, so the Queens and the Zerglings are going to have an easier time defending against these Hellions. Now maybe the double Banshees can get something done, but look at Dark just droning up. And that's the problem, right? Whenever you throw away your Hellions like that, and the reason why we don't really see it very much anymore these days, maybe he assumed that Dark was going to skip link speed entirely, because that's what the Zerg players have been doing lately, right? They've been playing some very greedy builds. Maybe not so much with a triple hedge start, but anyways, maybe that is what Clem was maybe a little bit... He was keeping it in the back of his mind, right? Maybe he was a little bit concerned for that. He's like, you know what? If you don't have link speed here, I may be able to destroy everything that you've got. Hellions here now also threatening to drive by, but look at the creep spread. Already very solid. Dark sees them coming in from a mile away, and he's just gonna go straight into a 4th hatchery right now. Okay, so 11 drones in total. 1 queen ends up going down. I much prefer this start right here for Dark. 3rd command center is finally going to land, as Dark is going for a 4th. There's the infestation pit as well. Macro hatchery going down. 1-1 upgrades. We should really be getting the Baneling speed upgrade going here, Dark. That is something that you cannot really forget. He decides to go for another hatchery, by the way. So 3 hatcheries right now on the production tab. So Dark is playing the greediest possible game ever. Okay, there's the Baneling speed. That Baneling speed makes me a little nervous, because that was supposed to start off about maybe half a minute earlier or so. That does mean that Clem has got a bit of a timing window, but obviously he does not realize that. I think this hatchery over here is almost bait. Yeah, Clem has seen it, and he's gonna commit to killing it right now, but Dark already has 2 additional hatcheries. He really doesn't need 3 additional hatcheries. So I think this little attack over here, while it may feel good to Clem, he's like, haha, I got his 4th base. That was already a secondary 4th base. There's already a macro hatchery finishing in the main. Hive coming up. This is a 7-minute hive. Hydra then after that. Okay, so everything is going Dark's way here, other than that Baneling speed upgrade. I'm not a huge fan of that. A little bit late right here on the armory, meaning that 2-2 cannot start up right away. This is something that we see at every level of StarCraft 2. We're gonna go for a hatchery over here in the middle as well. We should fire up 2-2 here as soon as the armory is done. It's finishing up. Come on. Oh, he wants to start them up at the same time. Yeah, this actually kind of hurts Clem. Yep. So I like the attempts here. I like roughly what Clem is doing, but I think the execution could be improved on just ever so slightly. These upgrades are just going to be so late. Obviously, they're much earlier compared to the Zerg, but rather than going for evolution chamber upgrades, Dark has just gone straight into a hive. This hatchery is not going to happen, but again, he's double expanding. So every single time Dark wants to make an expansion, he double expands, and then he is ready to give one of them up. Which is kind of clever, actually, because it really only costs you the drone and the 75 minerals, which at this point is really nothing all too crazy. Ultra Cavern, by the way. Okay. Ultra Cavern, 2-2. Adrenal Glands, 8.5 minutes into the game. That is very quick. Okay, so the 4th base, however, is properly timed here for Clem. Ultras are a very scary unit when you're not prepared for them. However, obviously with 4 base economy, Terrans will immediately start thinking about putting down that Ghost Academy. So I can imagine that we should be seeing that Ghost Academy here coming up very soon. And that's gonna make sniping down those units significantly easier. Lovely little bit of play over here. That Siege Tank now raking in 15 kills. Looks like a lot more Terran army is headed on over in this direction. So we may very well see a full out on attack, but the thing is, Dark can just give up on that base and just, well, send his drones on over to the bottom. I really don't think he needs to commit too much into fighting in this area, but I do love the bait over here, though. That's now 27 kills on these siege tanks combined. Just, well, walking a couple of units over in that direction, forcing the Lings and Banes over there too, and then the siege tanks can start piling on the kills. Yep, so Dark gives up the base. I really like that. I think it's really clever. Again, giving Clem the feeling like he's in a really good spot, but I think overall, his position is not quite as comfortable as that of the Zerg. That being said, though, this is by no means a bad situation right now for Clem. Unless he's not prepared for the original, or I guess the initial influx, rather, of Ultralisks, I think he's gonna be okay. So he's already fired up 1 Liberator. Doesn't sound like much, but if we can get a couple more, that would be awesome. There's the Ghost Academy. We had 3 additional barracks as well on the production tab. These are all gonna get tech labs on them, so Clem can go straight into the Ghost production. And as long as he's got a couple Ghosts ready to go by the time the Ultras can hit him on the other side of the map, which is gonna be right about right now, I think he's gonna be okay. I think Dark should get a move on, actually. So he's just spent all of his gas. So Clem pretending to go for a push over here and just clearing out a little bit of creep may just buy him a ton of time. We really need the Ultras over here, though. Okay, we're gonna leave the Ultras at home for base defense? Really? Okay. Well, the window for the Ultra here is already closing. Clem at this point is not adding on Ghost because he's maxed out. Okay. Blinding Clouds are going down. Can Dark overwhelm this? Suddenly the Swarm is coming from all directions here. Clem not quite prepared. He, sees the Ultras, I think, for the very first time right now, or maybe he had a scan of them earlier. Either way, now that he's got some supply available, he's going to be able to start up some counters as well. Creep's still looking solid, so the Queens can get pretty close as well. Plus, of course, they can use their transfusion ability right there to keep that Ultralisk alive. The 1 hero Ultra putting in a ton of work. Already getting a couple kills. Really not that much, honestly, all things considered, but... Alright, the Medivacs are here right now, ready to evacuate these units away. In the meantime, Clem has snuck out a 5th command center. Oftentimes taking the 5th can be a bit tricky. Either you take it over here, or all the way at the 3 o'clock position. And Clem has decided to go for the one over here in the middle. And now that the sensor tower is up, I mean, Dark is gonna get the heads up that indeed this expansion has now been taken, but I don't think there's really a whole lot he can do about it. I want to believe in the Ultralisk, man. But it just seems like such a weak unit overall, right? Like, this was one of the best case scenarios for an Ultralisk. Basically, Dark going into the late game, or I guess mid to late game, rushing out the Ultra and, you know, not really forced to defend with Lurkers earlier on. Like, this was really quick Ultras. Clem had no idea that it was happening, and still the Ultra seems to just be like an upskilled Zergling that really doesn't put in a lot of work. Now, hey, fun little addition that they've recently made to the upcoming StarCraft 2 balance patch. It's currently on the PTR. Nothing is set in stone just yet. Well, he's actually going to engage over here. I don't think that's going to work out all too well, is it? Well, Blinding Cloud over here is going to shut down the bio as well. Okay, Siege Tank gets taken out. Yeah. In the end, though, the SimCity here is solid. At least the, hello, we should probably get those Medivacs out of here. At least the hatchery here on the left side did stay alive. Dark continues pushing over here, but I think he's mostly just trying to get rid of these Ultras. Yeah, they really don't serve that much of a function anymore. We're gonna go into Hydra right now, and I probably think a Lurker den maybe as well before too long. Anyways, they are making, wait for it, the Ultralisk 25 minerals cheaper, baby. Woo! But wait, there's more. If you buy an Ultralisk now, you get 1 Zergling for free. Yeah, they're becoming 25 minerals cheaper. I don't know if that's gonna make the unit significantly better, but I honestly do think it's gonna be nice. I just still don't really see a scenario where the Ultra would be that great of a unit to make. I mean, they're nice. I play them all the time in my games. But at this level, at the highest level of StarCraft 2, the Ultra does seem... Yeah, sorry, buddy. You do seem a little pathetic. I know, dude. You look cool. They put you on a diet, you're a little bit smaller now, but Terrans know how to deal with you. Okay, a couple Zerglings over here, lovely little play. The Zerglings tried so hard! Oh my god, he did not get him. Alright, Ghost from the high ground, man. Even apparently countering Zerglings now. Ay, can you believe it? Love this sensor tower over here, though. Look at that. That sensor tower is just on the off chance that there's gonna be like a detector coming on over here for the Zerg, or like a spotter unit to throw down Nydus worms. If you look at the minimap right now, Clem is well turtled up. There's siege tanks, planetary fortresses, and look at this, man. It is the explosion de command center, as Clem calls it. He's adding on a gajillion command centers right now. Terrans generally want to opt for like a dozen or so orbital commands, because once they get to a dozen, maybe 10, maybe 8, they can just trade out their SCVs and start mining with mules instead. And obviously the big advantage of that is that mules don't cost any supply. Well, one of the command centers is certainly gonna die. But that's gonna come at the cost of a lot of Lings and Banes. Yeah, 22 SCVs as well, but like we're now at the point where those SCVs don't really matter anymore. Nice little scan over here by Clem. Okay, we're gonna move forward over here as well on the right side in the meantime. Nice abduction right there on that siege tank, but beautiful positioning here by Clem, right? I mean, all of this looks pretty randomly put down, but it really isn't. He's creating choke points and little areas on this map where he knows the Zerg units are gonna have to funnel through it, and then the siege tanks can maximize their splash damage. Royal Blood has been around for such a long time at this point that Terran players have really figured out how to optimize all of their positioning, reducing surface areas, creating almost like corridors, yeah, to funnel the Zerg. And with this late game Terran army, right, with this like Ghost Liberator siege tank based force, Zerg can really only go Hydraling Bane. It's really the only viable unit composition that works reasonably well in straight up fights. Vipers are obviously nice, maybe you can add on a couple of Infestors, but the Ghost really counters a lot of the other late game potential. Ultra over here trying to get some work done, but it will be sent back. It's not gonna make it. Okay. So one of the ways that Zerg players tend to win from this particular position, because I know there's gonna be some Zerg players watching this right now getting really tilted and frustrated looking at this. Generally the way Zerg wins is not so much by trading cost efficiently army-wise, but they win by having a lot more income. So you can see right now that over the course of this game, the mineral losses here for the Zerg have been significant compared to the Terrans. However, Terran's also stuck, right? Terran is also stuck on 5 bases. So Clem is gonna make a move for the gold right now, but if Dark can somehow, some way, soft contain the Terran on 4 bases, or maybe 5 bases, and let them run out, there's really no way for Clem to move out onto the map without stepping onto the creep, right? Whereas Dark has been mining his entire side of the map for a while already. He's got way more income, he's got a much larger bank. So despite the fact that Dark really can't make a proper late game army, and he's almost, yeah, forced to play this very mid-game looking force, it is still a very playable position for him. Now, Dark really wants to prevent this planetary fortress, it seems, or at the very least this base over here, but it's taking him a little bit too long. He's gonna go in for a move right now, but Terran's already well turtled up. Terrans have really mastered the way. Okay, he's gonna settle for this base here instead. They've really mastered the way to set up all of these new expansions in just like 10-15 seconds. Not giving the Zerg player enough time to respond. And again, that's a planetary fortress going down. That's a bunch of SCVs going down. But at this point, I don't think it really matters that much for Clem. He can just fly another command center there. It's even gonna be an orbital command this time. He's getting the building armor upgrade. That's gonna give his structures a little bit more tankiness. The economical damage here is nice and all, but I think it would have been much better if Dark could have prevented this base. I actually think that going for like a burrowed Zergling over there, like anything to give yourself like an additional 10 seconds is massive. Because right now there's not really a whole lot Dark can do. Like he's forced into this choke point. He can try his best. Maybe he's got enough to break through this, but Clem has masterfully put down that base and very quickly put up the static defense, the sensor tower, and just strategically position his units in such a way that it's hard to get much done. Okay, we're gonna go into the Nydus network right now. Hatchery here at the 3 o'clock has finished, so Dark still has plenty of mineral fields to mine. This expansion over here is going to be tricky, but what I really like though about this positioning here for Clem is that he's decided to take his next expansion over here, which is kind of in the middle of the map. But with that one secured, mostly secured anyways, the expansion north of this location is much easier to acquire. Now Dark apparently has decided, okay, Chaos is the way. Chaos is how I'm gonna try and obtain the victory here. I'm gonna hit my opponent in many different angles at once, and I'll try to just do all kinds of run-bys. Clem has now been reduced to only 43 SCVs, which is really not that much. Yeah, he's lost like, you know, more than 10,000 resources more, but Dark has also been mining about that much more as this game went on, so he's got a lot more eco. He's still had a lot of mineral fields here to mine. He's now mining out the golden base over here. Would love to see most of these workers send on over towards the 3 o'clock. Nydus Worm in the back of the natural expansion. These are all locations that are frustrating for the Terran to deal with, because Terran's very, well, clustered around that, what do you call this? Like, the 10 o'clock-ish position on the map? It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? So, Orbital Command now landed over here. More SCVs are gonna find their graves. Drones are burrowed over here, actually, together with a bunch of links in the top left-hand corner. More drones, though, have been sent on over towards that 3 o'clock base. Clem, however, is not done just yet when it comes to his ultimate Terran late-game army. He's decided to now go into the Blue Flame research together with the Infernal Pre-Igniter. So, well, that's the same upgrade. The Infernal Pre-Igniter is the Blue Flame. Together with Hellbats is what I meant to say. Hellbats are really good because with +3 attack upgrades, they can one-shot Zerglings no matter what. So, as long as Dark, well, is Ling Bane focused, right? Which is basically what he's been the entire game long. I've got a feeling that Clem is going to be able to win straight-up fights. That being said, we do have the Infestor over here. Neural Parasite is not researched, but he will have fungal growths, and I think that's what he's gonna, well, at least think about using here. He's moving forward pretty far. A couple of Corruptors added into the mix as well to try and get rid of those Liberators. Quite like that. Liberators, though, still putting in a ton of work before they end up going down. Once again, the Lings and Banes are funneled. Great splits right there by Clem, backing up. But in the meantime, right? And again, all of this aggression here is nice by Clem. In the meantime, the expansion over here has been acquired. So, Blue Flame, hello, attack, there you go. In the meantime, that expansion in the top left has been acquired, and yeah, Clem may be using or losing a bunch of SCVs over here and trading out a bunch of his army and all that. This mineral line is almost irrelevant at this point. He's got a fresh one over here in the top left-hand corner. Dark, though, by destroying a bunch of those libs, has decided that this is the time for the Ultralisk to come back. So the main counters to the Ultralisk here are not just the Liberators, though, it's also the Ghosts. So Snipe alone is going to be a pretty good answer, but I guess, yeah, all of the Ghosts at this point are actually also gone. So the Ghosts and Liberators are, well, at least hurting. So Dark is thinking, okay, maybe I can mix in some Ultralisks once again. You know, one of my main concerns with the upcoming balance patch, this is something that not a lot of people have really been talking about, but they're nerfing the Baneling damage. And I think it's for good reason, because the Baneling definitely is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's also a very important tool, right? Like, it's very difficult to imagine a game like this, where the Baneling deals like 10% less damage. I mean, ooh, looks like there was a little bit of a pause in the game. Anyhow, obviously there's a bunch of small buffs as well to make up for it. Like the Hydra is going to be a little bit more powerful. The Ultra is going to be a little bit better too, but... Alright, well, once again, though, the Swarm is flooding all over the map. It looks like Dark may very well be able to get rid of this planetary fortress over here right now. Corruptors are peeing on that base over there too, and that planetary falls. Okay, loads of command centers have fallen, but... this expansion, it's now the first time that Dark sees it. Yeah, this is going to be a very critical base. SCVs are pulled away. Is there enough right now for the Zerg to get rid of this planetary fortress? It looks like there will be, but will there be enough here actually for the Zerg to get out as well? I don't think so, no. At least 2 of the Ultras have already fallen. Marines, still a pretty good counter. They're going to be able to get rid of that Ultralisk as well. But that was an additional 29 SCVs. Dark is all over the map, putting in so much damage here with all of these small little run-bys of his. But eventually, I've got a feeling, he's been running from his problems for a while. Eventually, he's gonna have to address the main army. That being said, Clem right now, for all intents and purposes, broke. Despite all of the command centers that he'd had, yeah, he's lost so many of them. He's lost 9 command centers throughout this game. Unless I mathed it incorrectly, which, let's be real, likely. He's lost a lot of eco, he's lost a lot of SCVs, but his army is still menacing. Yeah. Yep. So that was Dark, jumping with whatever he's had. Trying his best to get rid of that Terran army. But while he's still dealing damage on the other side of the map, I don't know if he's got enough. I mean, it's still very close. Excellent movement though by Dark. Yeah. Very well done. Now he's burrowing Zerglings in all of those upcoming potential bases here. This expansion is actually so important. Dark is running out of minerals here too. He still has a bit of mining, definitely more than the Terrans. Okay, if he can buy enough time and somehow, some way, get back to like a near maxed out state, this is still a very playable game for him. Liberator over here apparently killed by a spore crawler. That is very expensive for just a handful of drones. 69 workers remain right now for Dark. That is quite nice. He's got this mineral line over here too, but got a feeling that this is going to be a very difficult one. Look at that Terran army. Yeah, still looking massive. Zerglings immediately going around the site once again, though. He's not giving Clem a lot of time here to breathe. Just mostly, yeah, hitting his opponent in the face as much as possible, sniping as many workers as you can. 130 plus workers have already gone down here, killed by just a handful of lings, really, it feels like. I guess a lot of banelings and ultras and hydras and whatnot also were part of it, but it's mostly those small little Zergling groups that have just been destroying the Terran economy. Lovely work right here by Dark. At this point, though, we're talking 72 army supply. Well, 70 versus 50 for the Zerg. And the quality of units here for Terran is definitely a little bit better. Okay. Is there enough? Fungal growth? Ooh, that fungal growth's looking mighty possible. Okay, he does get a decent hit in, but Clem pre-splitting his army here on the creep. He doesn't even have a lot of scans available anymore, but GG is cold. This game was actually a lot closer than I thought it was gonna be, because I've seen so many matches where the Terran survives to 5-base economy and then Zerg slowly dies out. But Dark did an amazing job hanging in there and really pushing the Terran here to the limit. In the end though, Clem turned out to be a little bit too strong in game number 1, and that means he's leading this series 1-0. Okay, Gresvin, game number 2. I think Clem can play a very similar style on this map, and he will probably be able to get away with it, right? I wonder if he's gonna make any changes, because despite the fact that Dark made that previous game look very close, it was really still Clem in the driver's seat there for the majority of the time. I think in his mind, he's like, okay, I let a few too many of those groups of Zerglings slip through the cracks. Initially, for like the first 5 minutes or so after he established 5-base eco, it looked really good for him. But then after, you know, that part in the game, so like the last, I want to say 5 to 10 minutes of the match, it started looking a little bit more shaky for him, right? It started looking a little bit more delicate with those run-bys and, well, attempted Nydus worms and corruptors and whatnot flying around. I think he mostly just thinks about that part in the game and how he could have improved it. So a lot of it will just come down to army positioning and maybe relying on drops a little bit more than he actually did. Either way, this time around, we do have that more, well, Clem-esque style. This is in my mind always the go-to build order of Clem. So the triple CC with the delayed starport. So this is relatively similar to the previous game. However, rather than going for the starport first and then the third command center a little while later, he decided to go for the third command center first and now the starport. The difference here is that if you want to go for Banshee play, which I think he probably will, the difference here is that the Banshees will come out a little bit later, but most of the aggressive attacks from the Zerg will still be able to be defended. If you wanted to go for, say, for example, like a Roach Rush or a Roach Ravager all-in or something along those lines, it would be, yeah, kind of tricky. It would be kind of tricky for the Zerg player to pull that off. He would have to commit to like an early game push quite a bit before the one that we, ordinarily see in a regular, quote-unquote, a regular aggressive game. So if you want to go for like a normal Zerg push, usually you plant down the Roach Warren at about 3.5 minutes. And then you do go for, well, maybe a second Gas Geyser and like 8 or so Roaches, but you'll hit on the other side of the map, even against the triple CC start, when the Banshee is already out. And that really is the main answer. So Clem right now going for the additional barracks on the back of this too. We'll probably see the Stimpack upgrade here fired up very soon in the tech lab, and that's gonna make life nice and comfortable for the Terran here over the next couple of minutes. Alrighty, Dark going for a very macro-focused style so far in this series though. I wonder what he is thinking about when it comes to that previous game. Because he did make a lot of the correct moves there. Like, he dealt more damage than what we normally see from Zerg players in the late game. So he really did narrow down that Terran economy to really just a handful of workers there. The income from the Terran was really nothing to write home about, but If he is going to end up playing the exact same game once again, I don't think it's going to work out for him all too much. First and foremost, Clem has now got the knowledge of game number 1, but secondly, we find ourselves on Gresvan, which is just a map that you can play the same strategy on as Terran, but is even more defendable. So I wonder if Dark is going to mix anything up. I don't think the Ultras really put in a lot of work in the previous game. So maybe, yeah, foregoing the Ultralisks and going for like, I don't know, Lurker play or something like that instead. Because when you do ultimately, right, force the Terran into that all-in onto your creep, which is what we saw at the very tail end of that previous game, you much rather have a bunch of Lurkers sitting there rather than a couple Ultras, right? Because the Lurkers are much better in those defendable locations and they take a lot longer to clean up for the Terran too, so you can continue backstabbing and reproducing and all that. Anyways, I wonder, I'm just thinking out loud here, I wonder what Dark is going to mix up here in this particular match. He's making a ton of links. He's making a ton of links while having a delayed Baneling Nest. That being said though, he does already have 3-base saturation and he's once again going for a whole load of hatcheries. So 4th base already done. We've got a 5th and a 6th hatchery now also on that production tab. Early game harassment here from Clem has not been all too amazing, but obviously with the triple CC opener, the main advantage you have is that you really don't need to get that much damage in. You can just sort of, yeah, rely on your 3rd command center economy instead and really face the Zerg player head on. There's the factory coming up. We're doing it right around the same time that the 3rd base is saturated in that mineral count. And now finally is the Baneling speed. The Dark really not a big fan of rushing out the Baneling speed. He really just got the lair, I guess, to go into the Overseer Scout? I mean, he did go for an Overseer pretty quickly, but maybe it was just to defend against the Banshees. Or it was a misplay. I actually believe it was a misplay. I think that would make a lot more sense, because the Baneling speed here really is a little bit too late. He decided to go for the lair into double upgrades and then Bane speed. That's a bit funky. Generally, you go for the double upgrades, then the lair, then the Baneling speed, or you go for the lair, Baneling speed, double upgrades. But now you went lair, double upgrades, Baneling speed, if that makes any sense. Those pieces don't really fit together. Dark trying to like force one of those square blocks through like one of the round holes, you know what I mean? It doesn't really... I learned that when I was like 2 years old, Dark. Not generally. Maybe he saw, like maybe he thought he needed a quick Baneling speed, but then he saw something from the Terran and he's like, yo, I don't think I need it. I'm just gonna get the double upgrades instead. That's probably what happened here, but that doesn't make myself sound as smart. So I'm gonna go with the option that makes myself sound cleverer. Therefore, you guys will hit the like button and think, wow, this guy, such a knowledgeable commentator. I'm gonna wanna subscribe to this channel and check out some more of his videos, because he uploads pretty much every single day. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Love you. Okay, so Siege Tank coming in. That's the problem with this base over here. It's very tricky for the Zerg to actually clean all of this up. The Queen's over here on a little stroll. Zergling's thinking about going for the counterattack, but this base, yeah, okay, it's just being evacuated right away. So Dark is just making expansions that are almost bait. Yeah, like a expansion bait over here. He's just making a bunch of bases and he's getting a bit of work done, but mostly just ready to give that up at a moment's notice. Maybe hoping that the Terran overcommits and then he can do like a Ling Bane run by. Kind of cool. But it does make the minerals there that he's got it more expensive. Okay. A little bit of a deviation here as well, by the way, from Clem. He decides to go into a Widowmine play this time around. There's the Hydra then, by the way. We are at Hive Tech already, but we do not have a transition towards Ultralisk this time around. I think that makes a lot of sense. Ultras, pretty trash. Don't think 25 minerals is gonna make them much better, but hey, who knows? Okay. Yeah, you can see upgrades-wise, though, this is looking a lot better here for Dark, right? Like, he's just further and further ahead when it comes to the upgrade count. Zergling group over here putting in a ton of work, and this is really what Clem needs to not have happen. He's so busy harassing on the other side of the map, and I really do like that, but he's taking a lot of damage in the meantime at home. Looks like this is going to just be another base, though, that will be given up on here by Dark. Yeah, that's a feint attack. No, he's thinking about giving it up. He needs the Vipers here for blinding clouds, though, because now he's wandering off creep with his units. Still some pretty decent hits. We had a lot of Lings over there as well at the top section of this map. Maybe ready to deal with like a double-pronged aggression there from the Terran, but none of that was happening. Now the Lings come in, but the hatchery is already dead, so Really doesn't serve much of a function anymore. Okay. And this is now looking once again like it is slowly but surely going the way of the Terran. We'll probably see this base taken here in a moment. The expansion a little bit further up north is also looking pretty solid. What exactly is Dark going to change about the late game? Because I feel like his previous late game really was as good as it was gonna be if you're not gonna focus on 1,000,000 spellcasters. And I'm not sure if the 1,000,000 spellcasters are also the right choice. Now, one unit, of course, that is also likely to get a small nerf in the upcoming balance patch is the Ghost. The Ghost really a little bit too well-rounded. And it almost seems to me, I might be wrong, it almost seems to me that Terrans are already starting to prepare for it, because they're playing far less Ghosts as of late. Okay, this is, oh my god, those Widow Mines! Oh my god, that was so much damage. Clem is gonna have to retreat here eventually, but I think he's pretty happy with the way that those mines landed. Yeah, a lot of value here coming out of, oh my god, look at that value here. A lot of value here coming out of the Terran army. Widow Mines still, by the way, and this is something I don't think I agree with, still seem to be able to get their unburrow buff. I was kind of thinking, guys, and maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think anybody really enjoys playing against Widow Mines that much. Giving the Widow Mine a buff? Really? It's a small one. It's not super significant or anything, but like, really? Is that what we... Okay. Widow Mine drop coming in. This is apparently the way that Clem wants to harass his opponent a little bit more here in the mid to late game. Not something we saw in the previous match very often, but lovely play here by Clem, trying to make the most of this scenario. And this is alleviating so much pressure, right? Like, even though only 3 drones have gone down there, Dark's very busy cleaning all of this up. So, whereas he normally would be going for like run-bys and he'd be setting up counter-aggression and all that, not really, well, when he's being dropped at the very least and he's forced to clean up those Widow Mines that are still burrowed, not really at the forefront of his mind. He's busy trying to not die. Okay, so here's the transition that I was assuming. Lurker then together with the Nydus Worm. I think that makes a lot of I think that makes a lot of sense. There's the Fusion Core though coming up for Clem. Additional starports coming up as well. The man is ready for that Mass Liberator transition once again. So we used to see Bio into Ghosts, into Ghost Mech, which seemed to be the ultimate late game army. But lately, Terran players in this matchup have been going Bio into Ghost into Liberator Ghost instead. And then eventually, apparently in the previous game, a bunch of Blue Flame Helmets, which is interesting. We might end up going to Ghost Mech with Liberator support if the matchup gets to develop for like another half year or so. But generally, we see the Zerg player maxing out with their unit composition like 10 minutes before the Terran does, which is kind of nutty. We see the Terran still refining and upgrading their unit comp, and Zerg's like, well, Ghost, I guess Hiderling Bane. Yeah, fantastic. Couple of Infestors, couple of Vipers, maybe a handful of Lurkers, maybe a Nydus Worm, but as far as the units go, generally it'll be very Hiderling Bane focused. Oh, this could hurt maybe, but probably not. I was gonna say, I think we're just feeding the machine here. I actually think you don't want to kill the Nydus. You should have just kept on killing them, man. I don't think that was optimal right there for Dark. Nydus Worm very slow at spitting out those units. Oh my god, okay. The Command Center Explosion on the right side this time around. Here's the additional CCs being added on. Clem is gonna go for a command center here a little bit further up north as well, and he's doing a phenomenal job controlling the pace of this game, right? I mean, this is where we were though in game number 1 of this series, and then Dark made it look incredibly close with all of those Zergling run-bys and all of the damage that he did. This is, I think, where Clem wants to improve on compared to game 1. Because in the game we just watched, it kind of felt like it was starting to slip out of his fingers, and in the end he still made it, but Dark is a dangerous man from this position. So first off, we're playing this more defensively. We're more dancing on the edge of the creep, not really moving too deep onto the creep. If Clem can force this to be a split map scenario, which is one of the main reasons why Terrans like Gresvin, he is going to be pretty happy about it. So in order to force this to be a split map, he needs 2 more bases. This is a likely one that he will be aiming for momentarily. And then maybe this one over here at the bottom. Although that is pretty far away from his area right now. He could think about maybe mining out this base as well later on. But that'll all remain to be seen. Building armor is finishing up. I think we'll see a move here for him going up north momentarily. Little hit squad of overlords. Not exactly sure where they are going, but at least they're thinking about it. Yeah, so Clem clearing out the creep over on this end of the map. I love that. Really clever, because it's going to make this base just easier to acquire later on. He wants to set up defenses here in this area. Another little abduction here, forcing that Liberator to unsiege. A couple of the libs here will end up going down. Lovely micro there by Dark, but also pretty expensive. Dark now suddenly is going to show up, though, with a whole lot of lurkers, and he's ready to put him in the Nydus worm. Maybe bleeding out Zerglings over here is going to lull the Terran into a false sense of security. Like, yeah, it's only going to be Zerglings. Don't you worry about that. He'll probably try and go for the Nydus worm over here. I really like this position. He's currently got one planted down over here as well. One Nydus worm, or one swarm hose, rather. Together with a Nydus worm. But the Liberator production is now well underway. Yeah, we're gonna go Ghost Liberator. Okay, so double Nydus Worm in very annoying locations. Clem is gonna be forced to defend against these units. Let's see how much damage Dark can do about it. So his idea is that he can't fight the Terran army straight up, but he can be in basically every area all at once. So, okay. This army over here gets cleaned up. Lurkers go to the north. I love that play here. So, Clem is going to be forced to defend this, and this army is pretty fast, but not nearly as fast as units that are trying to go through the Nydus worm. Okay, Clem, is he going to overextend? Okay, half of the Lurkers got out, Command Center lives, but 22 SCVs end up going down. Are we going to continue down here at the bottom? We are. Lovely play here by Dark. I really like this, even though... Again, if Terran completes this this defense, I don't think they really should be taking as much damage. 22 SCVs at this point in the game looks big. It's a big number, but this is also after the command center explosion, right? Like, we've got orbital commands for days. We literally have 11 of them right now. Any command center that goes down can be replaced. A lot of ghosts over here, though, just by themselves. Is Dark doing this again? Dark is such a monster in the late game, man. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. Getting rid of these Liberators over here, too. If he could transfer drones on over towards this base, that would be amazing. Because this is likely going to be one of the final bases that the Terran really wants to mine. I think if he could secure those minerals, and, well, once they're mined out, obviously there's no way for the Terran to mine them anymore. There is still certainly a way for him to win this, despite the fact that he's trading incredibly cost inefficiently. A little bit of Lurker ping pong over here, man. Oh, okay. Well, despite the fact that these units are pretty atrocious when it comes to air-to-air damage, yeah, there's still gonna be no match for those Overlords. Dark keeps moving, dude. Love it. Well, these Lurkers are in a pretty line, but not really getting a whole lot done. I think that Nydus play actually is super cool, though. Yeah, really, really nice stuff. A lot of ghosts are starting to fall. Clem is considered to be one of the absolute fastest players in the world, and I bring that up all the time in half of my Clem casts, but he's getting outpaced a little bit here by Dark. I see Ghost going down at the front every time that Terran's busy over here. Oh my god, that's a lot of snipes! Oh god, okay. I think he got a couple of them out at least. Whew. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm actually super excited, not just for the new balance patch. I'm a little concerned for the new balance patch, if I'm being honest with you. Could make a dedicated video about that. That is going to change the game quite a bit and very drastically. I'm mostly very excited, though, for the new maps. Having new maps in StarCraft 2, I mean, it's gonna change everything, right? Like, this type of game is only playable for Terran on this type of map, right? Like, they generally play pretty turtly right now in the current StarCraft meta. But that's mostly just because these... Oh, that Widow Mine! This is mostly just because the maps are so well figured out. Having new maps in StarCraft 2 is gonna change the pacing of the game drastically. we'll see a lot more active Terran styles, I think, for at least a while. And you can imagine that maps also have a huge influence when it comes to the balance of the game, because Terrans obviously are playing pretty turtly, yeah. It's not their only style, no, but it is their very best option. So, you know, obviously they're playing whatever gives them the most wins, and you can't blame them for that. But if you suddenly have a map pool where turtling is just not really as easy anymore, you can imagine that it also makes massive differences to the win-loss ratios of this matchup. And lately it seems to be going slightly in favor of Terran, but only very slightly. Okay. We have so many units going down though here. Yeah, Zerg is starting to lose a little too much. Those engagements into the siege top locations and into the Widow Mines and Liberator, siege tanks and all the rest of it. It is looking pretty explosive and pretty spectacular and all that, but Dark is bleeding out fast. The fact that he's lost how much more? That's 13,000 more minerals and a little bit more gas as well. I mean, that is basically an entire expansion worth of stuff. And Dark has been mining more than his opponent, but not quite that much more. Keep in mind that the Nydus worms also cost a bunch of resources, so it's not like he's just throwing around these Nydus worms to go in his favor here. It's not like he's throwing them around for free. Ghost over here now sniping down the Hydralisk as well. Okay, this expansion is gonna be toast. Lurker over here putting in a little bit of work, fair enough. I think one more scan over here is gonna be the end of that. Yep. And if Clem can secure this expansion over here at the bottom, if he can secure this one together with the one up north, we've effectively created a split map scenario. And with the split map scenario and the cost inefficiency of the Zerg late game, Terran is ultimately going to win the match. Tactical nuke coming up. Love that. Yeah, love that. I feel like we haven't really seen nukes being used to their absolute highest potential. Like, the timing of it seems kind of random in the Terran versus Zerg meta right now. But like a nuke over here to force the Zerg to back off and to buy yourself a little bit of time and get that expansion going and all that, sounds like a fantastic choice. Okay, Dark moving in right now, trying to see if he can pull a rabbit out of a hat. Those parasitic bombs are very effective, but I don't think that there is enough Zerg here overall to really clean this up, especially when we're fighting off creep. Banelings are being dealt with over here. A couple of those changelings almost helping out the Terran player more than the Zerg because they were blocking those Hydras. Still though, the Corruptor Hydra squad is getting rid of the Liberators, and only really the Ghosts remain at this point. Clem still though has so much money in the bank. He could remax with a lot more marine production if he wanted to, but I don't think he really should. I think he should just, yeah, slowly build up his additional armies. Even making more command centers up north to rub insult to injury here. Ay, ay, ay. To rub insult? To rub salt in the wound. There you go. That's a little bit more effective. This expansion over here is going to get destroyed. New hatchery being acquired once again right over here at the bottom of the map. Liberator trying to see if he could tickle a couple of these Corruptors to death. Apparently, okay, Dark decides to split up those units. Continuing the harassment over here, though. Clem is standing tall. I wanted to say tall and strong at the same time. He's standing tall. He's standing strong over here. This is a Terran army that does not want to be overwhelmed. And Dark is desperately trying to see if he can break the tempo here. Right? If he could overwhelm the opponent here and start flooding links towards the opponent's natural. I think that is his main saving grace here. If he can get that done, this game is gonna be in the bag. However, Clem is, well, standing strong, like I already said, right? He's trying his very best to hold on to this position, recognizing exactly what the Zerg is trying to get done. This base right now is do or die. There's really not a whole lot here that the Terran player has to worry about. Couple of snipes over here, getting rid of one of those Lurkers. Not bad at all. Apparently this is going to trigger Dark to go in for a move over here. He wants to overwhelm this, but of course this fight is taking place off creep. There's still multiple layers of Widow Mines over here in the back as well. A couple of drones end up going down, and once again, Clem stands here. He does not fall down. He does not falter. He is trying to see if he can move forward even, and he's thinking about sniping one of those Lurkers. Those Lurkers are a lovely backbone here to that army. The Liberators from up north have now also decided that they're gonna come to the bottom, recognizing that there is only one area of attack right here from the Zerg. Those Libs with their anti-ground circles putting in a lot of work, but the Corruptors and Hydras are starting to break through some of this. Okay. I think this is done. Yeah, I think Clem has managed to pull it off. GG indeed is cold. Brilliantly played right there by Clem. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe down below. And also, if you enjoyed watching this, you may want to check out my second channel. That's youtube.com/morelowko, which is where I post completed games that I have streamed on Twitch. Link is down below in the description. Currently, I've got a couple of custom campaigns of StarCraft 2 going up over there, but very soon, my Baldur's Gate playthrough will be going up over there as well. Anyways, for now, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again tomorrow for another video.